Hi, everybody. I just want to talk to you for a few minutes, and I have a point to make. The United States is the smartest dumb country in the world. We are the smartest dumb country in the world. I was giving a speech not too long ago, and I said a few things about what Islam is about and what Muslims and so forth. And there were people that went crazy on me and were accusing me of this, that, and whatever. And I realized after talking to them for about 30 seconds, they'd never read the Quran. They'd never talked to a Muslim person. They'd never been around a Muslim person, but they were taking American values, American way of thinking, American cultural attitudes, and they were assuming that the rest of the world and the rest of the religions were thinking the same way that the Judeo-Christian mindset was. And even though these weren't religious people, that made it even worse because they didn't have a basis on which to understand why things were happening. Now, in our news, we are seeing some very frightening and alarming things. And a lot of people don't know that the teachings of the Quran are very different. And so culturally, we're in for real trouble. So I love America. I think it's a wonderful place, but we are the smartest dumb country on the planet. And there are another look at things. We see that there are many countries that have already smartened up and made some changes. So let's look at the problem. The problem is in America, by our Constitution and our sense of government and the way that we think, we pleasure freedom. But freedom must be protected. Freedom is a treasure that must be protected. And the danger is that freedom without judgment will lead to anarchy, and anarchy will lead to slavery. Because out of the midst of anarchy, someone else will rise up with a clear dictatorial attitude, and they will put the rest of the people that were lovers of freedom, they will put them into slavery. So let me say it again. Freedom, it's a wonderful thing, but it must be protected. But freedom without judgment, if we don't judge the people who come around, we will find that some of them will not respect freedom or our right to participate freely. And so we run into a problem. The other main thought is tolerance. The American thinking is, let's be tolerant of anything. Let each man do what he wants with the responsibility to protect freedom, but let's be tolerant. Let's just include. Inclusiveness becomes an issue. But inclusiveness without perception will lead to corruption and defilement. Therefore, what you treasure, if you tolerate anything, people that do not have the same respect, and you then include them in inclusiveness, and you don't perceive it, what will happen will be, since you've included them and you're tolerating whatever they want, they will corrupt your culture, your system, your town, your city, and they will bring defilement. Your tolerance will permit them to defile what you said you treasured. And then immigration. Immigration without integration and assimilation leads to self-destruction. This is easy to understand when we look at what has happened in Europe. I'll say it again. Immigration, letting people come in, without integration and assimilation, meaning you let all these people in, but they do not integrate into our culture, and they never assimilate into the American way of thinking and the American Constitution and our understanding of spiritual things. So what have you done? You have allowed them in, and it will lead to destruction of yourself. So your tolerance is what actually led to your own self-destruction. Now, you may think this is just me talking, but let's listen to the words of a Dutchman, a political Dutch leader named Geert Wilders. Recently, he was in America, and here's what he said. He said he was reaching out to America to get America to wake up, to realize that pretty soon, very soon, the Islamization of Europe was taking over. And all of Europe and all of these wonderful countries from which we originally came, all of these countries are being overwhelmed by Islam, and therefore the last bastion of freedom and Western civilization is the United States. And Israel, of course, is greatly surrounded and vastly outnumbered. So Gert Wilders was pleading to America, wake up. Tolerance without getting the people to assimilate will bring your own self-destruction. And that is coming from a man in Europe. And Germany has realized the problem. Britain is suffering under the problem. France, you name it. They are struggling because Western civilization is being overrun by Islam. Now, let's look at it from a personal standpoint. The domestication of wild animals. We see some people that will bring gorillas in and monkeys into their home. I knew a friend, he brought a raccoon in and thought he was going to raise it domestically. And some people have brought lions and tigers into their home to live with them. Recently, a lady tried to domesticate a chimpanzee, but once it got older, it basically ripped her face off. Well, here, let me put it this way. Domesticating a wild animal or a person who is coming from a different moral and ethical law will lead to destruction of the provider and a complete erosion of your core beliefs. So it is foolishness to assume that when we bring people of a different culture into our culture, if we don't get them assimilated, they will not change. And their morals, ethics, and their cultural understanding may very well be that eventually our plan is to destroy you. Our plan is to take what you treasure, your freedom, away from you, and we're going to do what we know Islam teaches. And I'll get to that in a minute. So we have to know the nature of the beast and what is its natural inclination, what is its moral and ethical teaching. I am around people all the time that have so much to say about giving freedom and so forth, and the way that we Christians are so intolerant and so forth, but they have never studied Quran. They don't know anyone that has studied it. They've never looked it up, and they've never looked into it. So therefore, I have to ask a question. Where are the moderate Muslims? We look at the radical terrorists and the actions that they're doing of slicing throats, cutting off hands, of subjugating Jews and killing them, and coming against Gentiles, coming against homosexuals, coming against people that are different. All of that pressure. Where are the moderate Muslims? Where are those Muslims in America and others that should be in the streets demonstrating and opposing what the radical Islamic hosts are doing? Where are they? Have you noticed? They're silent. Have you noticed we don't see them on TV protesting? We don't hear those discussions. We don't see it in our newspapers. The moderate Muslims are silent. Therefore, it either means they're in agreement with it or they're afraid to express it. Stay with me now. We're drawing to a close. And so what I want you to understand is that the text of the Quran and Muslim teaching declares absolute subjection of all populations, conversion, or destruction of all Jews, all Gentiles, and all non-believers. That is not optional. That is the eventual goal of what Muhammad taught, and that's what is being worked on. And if you don't pay attention, you then will be opening up your heart, your mind, your home, and everything to a people whose basic plan is to destroy you. And we're smarter. America, we're smarter than that. Now, present birth rates will determine the end of our culture anyway. If we don't make some changes, the number of children that Muslims have, we will soon be outnumbered. To be outnumbered, think of this, to be outnumbered in a democracy means that you become the new minority, which means that your freedoms, your rights, and your way of life is destroyed. America, we're smarter than that. If we take a look at this, it's already happened in cities like Dearborn, Michigan, where the Muslim population has gotten large enough to really begin to change things. Last week, a group of Christians were just publicly out in the street, beaten up. We have to understand that that's what's coming if we don't wake up. Then moving to our final point, the so-called church is presenting a problem. The so-called church today has lost its power because out of either fear or just abandoning the commands of God, we have permitted this loose freedom and this total embrace with no perception and no discernment, and we have And the reason is very simple. In America, we love sin so much that we want to do our personal choice of sin, and we're therefore motivated to allow anyone else to do whatever they want without perceiving and looking into what is the outcome of their situation. When Islam declares that America is the great Satan and that Israel is the little Satan, we don't understand what they're saying. They see the damage of a country like ours that has permitted the pornographers, has permitted the prostitution, has permitted the drug use, has permitted the destruction of the family. We've allowed all of those things, and we're trying to say love and tolerance, but that love and tolerance has destroyed the church and will soon destroy the nation. So I hope you've enjoyed this little talk, but Europe and the Middle East, they're already in the death throes. And Geert Wilders and a number of European politicians are aware that their culture, their Western thinking is being destroyed by not paying attention. So to summarize, freedom without judgment will lead to anarchy and then eventually slavery. Tolerance without perception will lead to corruption and defilement. Immigration without integration and assimilation will lead to self-destruction. America, wake up. We are facing the life and death of Western civilization. Wake up. Don't be quick to embrace something you do not understand. Don't give freedom to something you do not understand. Do not tolerate openly immoral and incorrect behavior and think somehow you're going to survive. May God richly bless you in these last days. We look forward to what God is doing, and I pray, America,